Imagine how difficult it is, for example, to be a 16-year-old girl now, or a 16-year-old boy.
Yeah.
You know, you've got Instagram, you've got notifications, you've got likes, you've got this, you've got that. Everybody has the best boyfriend, everybody has a six-pack, everybody is flying private, everybody. The brain is not built for that.
Dopamine overload.
The brain is a mess.
Yeah.
These people, that's why you get all these panic attacks and the anxiety and all these things. I could argue that everything started because I have one skill, one superpower that outweighs all the other superpowers. And that's confidence and self-belief. Bottom line, what that means is that I'm just delusional. I am very connected to the jungle, and I speak in terms of animals all the time. And I speak about things in a very physical way, which makes it very strange that I work, for example, with neuroscience and neurofeedback, and I'm having meetings with NASA, because I would be like the opposite person. But I think if anything, that proves that if you are truthful, and if you are honest, and if you are open and you are transparent, you fit on any table. You fit at any table, in any room, with anybody. And that makes you be less impressed by people. And that's a powerful thing. The day that you realize that you're the one that's impressive and not the people around you, that's pretty fucking great. It's like, you know, if you can live a life where you're enjoying everything, you know, you've seen I have a candy room, and you know, if you can have a life where you always eat what you want to eat, and you always do what you enjoy, and you're only around people that you care about and that you love and that you trust and that you respect, and you're doing good, you're hurting nobody, you're fucking no one over, man, that's the dream.
Mitt namn är Samuel Attevall och jag lyder starkt efter citatet "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with". Det vill säga de människor som du har i din omgivning är även så att du blir lik. I tidningar, reportage och sociala medier är det idag väldigt lätt att måla upp en bild av framgången. Men vi vill gräva djupare. Vad ligger bakom denna framgång? Hur mycket hårt arbete har egentligen krävts? Hur har motgångarna tacklats? Och vad har gjort dem till personerna de är idag? Idag, mina vänner, har vi en otroligt intressant gäst till Under Ytan. Jag presenterar Moha, uppväxt i djungeln i Costa Rica, riskerat sitt liv i kriget i Libyen, flyttat till Skandinavien utan några förutsättningar till att idag vara i toppen av entreprenörskap Sverige. Han äger idag en av världens största e-sportsorganisationer, Astralis, medverkat i företag såsom Weir Labs, Fishbrain och War on Cancer, för att nu spendera cirka 70 timmar i veckan som VD för företaget Mendy. Går man från djungeln till att ha ett kontaktnät med allt från Gates-paret, Zlatan och Mark Zuckerberg, och hur arbetar man tillsammans med NASA? Det, mina vänner, kommer vi ta reda på i den episod av Under Ytan. So grateful to be here with you today, Moha.
Great to see you again, brother.
Such an inspiring
Welcome.
person. Thank you so much.
Likewise.
I mean, we met a month ago, I think it is.
We did.
Had a short talk, and I just got shocked about your story, and I want to share it with everyone else watching my channels as well. So I'm looking forward to just dive a little bit deeper into your story. And
I appreciate seeing you again and meeting Peter. Yeah, let's do this.
Let's do this. So yes, how we're gonna start is basically just revamping back the time. Where did it all begin? And then we'll move forward through your story until where we are right now and talk about the future. So bring me back to
So
the start.
when did it all begin? It depends on what part of the story you're trying to hear. You know, I was the son of refugees that fled Libya, you know, and I ended up in Costa Rica after being born in Belgium. So it's that's where it all began. But I think what you're trying to ask for is like my career here in Sweden. I think that's what you're trying to get to.
I think that part of your life is a really important one as well, to proceed where you are right now. So let's just start over, all from the beginning.
From the
If you want to
beginning.
share it.
Right. So I ended up in Costa Rica, which I identify as Costa Rican, like 1,000% from Costa Rica. So that would make me a tico. And it's just such a wonderful country. It's such a great place to live at. I was actually there a few weeks ago, and it was really hard to see what Corona has done to Costa Rica, because it's a country that thrives on tourism, and that's basically been, you know, just, it's gone away. It's been muffled over the past, you know, with this pandemic. So that's, you know, that sucked. But we're just, in Costa Rica, we're just really, really good people. My roots are not Costa Rican, even though I identify as 100% Costa Rican. But it's, so my roots are mixed. So I'm Libyan, I have a Libyan background, and I have Greek roots, and I have Georgian roots, and I'm a mutt. I'm very, very mixed. But yeah, so I grew up in Costa Rica, great life. I didn't grow up very wealthy, but I didn't grow up like with any hardships. Like we never lacked anything. I went to a great school. I didn't speak a word of English until I entered the 5th grade. I went to this school called ICS, which was a great, high school. And that's why I have an American accent, even though my mother tongue is Espanol, obviously. So Spanish is my mother tongue. And it's just a fantastic place. It's a little country in Central America that is very prosperous, where the educational system is great, the healthcare system is amazing, very similar to Sweden in that regard. So it's there's a lot of overlap between Sweden and Costa Rica to me, and it's just it's a country with no army, so that budget we put it into the healthcare, and it's a country that has a common sense approach to life, I think, and it's really marked my DNA. It's, I kind of am, no matter where I'm living, and I've lived in Africa, and I lived in Asia, and I've lived now in Europe, which to me is still a little crazy after 7 years of living in Europe, because to us in Costa Rica, it's so far away. Europe is just like that once in a lifetime trip, and I live here. But to me, I'm still that boy from the jungle. Like it's all about that jungle, that tropical rainforest. You and I were talking about like the jaguar, the food chain, and all this stuff, and that's I carry that with me along everything. And I actually lived in Costa Rica until 2010, until I was 30. So it's I'm quite a bit older than you are, but yeah, and but to me, the way that I look at life is it doesn't matter what job I'm doing, it doesn't matter what people I'm with, it doesn't matter what continent I'm on, it's still the same jungle cat. And the jungle cat will survive and it'll do good. So I've got a very pura vida approach to things, because you're gonna make it.
I love it. And that's what I wanted to bring back to the roots as well, because I think it's important for the rest of your story. So yeah, and I mean, you're doing entrepreneurship right now. You're working with a big company called Mendy, which is such an exciting project, which we'll dive a little bit deeper into sooner.
Right.
But first off, like, where did this entrepreneurship start within you?
Right. So I could argue that everything started because I have one skill, one superpower that outweighs all the other superpowers. And that's confidence and self-belief. We were just talking about neuroscience and self-efficacy and all these things that I know now that I didn't know before, but bottom line, what that means is that I'm just delusional. So when you mentioned that, is when you talk about Mendy, which we'll talk about later, is I am the CEO of a neurotech company. That is crazy. I almost want to laugh when I hear that. I am the CEO of a neurotech company, because 2 years ago I didn't know what neurotech meant. Literally. I am in tech, and I downloaded Instagram in 2014 or 15. Like, it's just like, I'm not that guy. But what I have is I have that delusion, that confidence that, I can make it. I can get it, And that outweighs everything else. That is the superpower that beats all superpowers. That combination of stupidity and confidence and delusion, it makes you literally be able to change the world. Again, it goes back to not doubting yourself. We're talking about your tattoo, and we're talking about all these things. We're talking about my necklace, which my shirt is very open, as usually happens. And it's that thing that connects you, that keeps you kind of like that rose namayunas before fighting. I'm the best, I'm the best, I'm the best. So when I came here to Sweden in 2014, I was very lucky. I had been in Libya, gone through war, gone through a lot of stuff. That's another long story. We can go into it if you want. But when I got to Sweden, I basically, the way that I explain it is something like, imagine a caveman that goes into, literally, like that's how it was coming from Libya to Sweden. it's like a caveman that's in the Stone Age, and I'm literally fighting dinosaurs, and I'm trying to fight saber-toothed tigers that are trying to kill me, and all of a sudden I'm in Sweden, and you're in this utopia with flying cars. Like, just imagine it. It's the Jetsons all of a sudden. And there's these people, and they happen to be really nice people, and they happen to be super open-minded, and they're building these incredible things that I know nothing about. And when I came here, it was very simple, because I started hearing about all these companies, and there's this vibrant ecosystem of these amazing, huge companies. Like, you know, there's all these companies that have come out of here. Like, you know, obviously the biggest one would be like Spotify, and then you've got like Klarna, and you've got all these things. And back then I remember like even the smaller ones, which I ended up joining one of them, it's like you'd hear about these companies like LifeSum and Fishbrain and like all these companies. And it was just like, what is this world? Like, you come in and like this is what they're doing. Like, I knew nothing about that. Like, I knew nothing about tech. I knew nothing about software, like nothing about anything. Apps, like I didn't know what an app was, right? I'm like downloading apps when I came to Sweden. And it was kind of like my process of like research. And what I realized very, very quickly is that Sweden has these super smart people, because your government was really smart and gave everybody computers, you know. And, you know, in Costa Rica, we're playing with mud and sticks and stuff, which is fun and great. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But you guys are playing with computers, so clearly you guys are building these things. You know, all of a sudden, you guys are building these incredible, life-changing, world-changing companies. And I just happened to be here at that time. And let's put it this way. These companies, you need to be, give me an animal. Give me like your favorite animal that is not like from the jungle.
Not from the
jungle.
Okay.
Something we wouldn't have in Costa Rica.
Not in Costa Rica. I mean, let's take, I'm just thinking about farm animals now, but I know that you have them there as well.
Do farm animals, that's
fine. Let's do a cow.
A cow. So you've got all these cows. By the way, this is a positive thing, right? You just chose this animal. Cows are great. Everybody loves cows. They're beautiful animals and smart and fantastic. But you've got all these cows, and all these companies, all these amazing life-changing companies need cows to build them, right? And these cows are just, they have a certain type of knowledge, and they have a certain type of education. They have a certain type of brain. They have a certain type of looking at the world. Like, they have a background. They have everything in their lives has made them conducive to building these incredible companies. I figured out very quickly when I got here in 2014 that I'm never going to be a cow. And I'm this shabby jaguar from Costa Rica, and these cows are doing these incredible things. So what I figured out is, how can I still be a jaguar and maximize being a jaguar in this world of cows? It sounds offensive, kind of, but that's not how it was meant. You could have said bear. Yeah. You could have said anything else. You could have said, you know, polar bear, and that would have been even bigger and stronger than a jaguar. Basically, there's these incredible women and men building these incredible companies, and I realized very quickly that the skill set they have, I will never compete with. But the superpower that I have can make me do good anywhere. Whether it's at war, whether it's in Africa, whether it's in Asia, whether it's in America, whether it's in Scandinavia, which to me is still surreal that I'm in Scandinavia, right? Because in Costa Rica, nobody knows the difference between Suecia and Suiza, so Sweden and Switzerland.
Exactly.
Because they sound pretty much the same, right? And now I live in one of them, right? And everybody gets it wrong. Everybody back there is like, oh, it must be so great in Switzerland. I'm like, yeah, it's great in Switzerland. But being in Sweden, what I realized is that if I can put my DNA and what I have, and that combination of fearlessness and stupidity and delusion and confidence and that Costa Rican blood into these projects that these amazing engineers, these amazing women and men in Sweden are building, that could be something special. And that's how I got started. Instead of trying to learn what they knew, I just tried to add what I knew.
Exactly. It's really interesting because I think I take out 2 points from there. One is that you, like, instead of trying to adapt to the people around you, you realize your superpower and you work with it, right?
And I acknowledge their superpowers, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
But
you try, instead of like trying to rewrite yourself and to be another person, you just are yourself and use it as much as possible.
I mean, look at it this way. You've met me twice now. You kind of know how I am. You can tell this is really how I am.
Yeah.
I'm in a country where, you've got the Siante thing. Everybody's kind of like, there's like these rules. But when I came to Sweden, I was faced with a choice. It was, do I adapt to those rules or am I true to myself? And that's gonna annoy some people. Some people are gonna be like, oh, what's wrong with this idiot? Oh, walking around, this guy like goes out for runs shirtless. We don't do that. Or, you know what? Bottom line, I just am true to myself, and I'm from Costa Rica, and we're all walking around shirtless. Like, you understand? It's like, it's that thing. It also comes back to what I told you. It's like common sense. When you come into any circumstance, you just look around you and you see, how is it that I can survive? Like, what is the landscape? What is it that I need to do to make it in this circumstance? Whether you're in a battle, for example, like I own a CSGO team, Astralis, for example. And it's like when you're there and you see the map, and it's like, okay, how is it that I'm gonna tackle this situation? When I came to Sweden, I very quickly realized that I was not gonna learn Swedish. And every time I tell people ask me, when did you get to Sweden? I say 7 years ago. Even though I haven't been in Sweden for 7 years, I've probably been in Sweden for like 3.5 or 4 years because I travel a lot. The first question is, and you don't speak Swedish? And my very confident answer is no, and I'm never gonna speak Swedish, even if I'm here for 50 years. Because to me, that was common sense. Because as long as I'm the guy that doesn't speak Swedish, I'm the cool Costa Rican guy, that speaks Spanish. Yeah. And Swedes are super open-minded, and they've all been everywhere, and they travel. You guys, you were in Spain a week ago, and like, you guys travel a lot, and it's just like part of your DNA, and it becomes a superpower. It's a conversation starter. Costa Rica, everybody's been surfing in Costa Rica, and everybody's been to the rainforest, and everybody has a story. Whereas if I learn Swedish, I'll be another immigrant with shitty Swedish, and I'll sound like the guy that's trying to sell strawberries, which I'm not going to say because you laughed when I said 20 sec when I made the yeah.
No, but it's really interesting, and also the way you talk about finding your superpower. I mean, everyone has their own superpower, but how did you find your superpower?
I think that's a very specific moment for me, but I have like kind of like a formula for everybody to find it. But for me, it was a very specific moment. I was in high school, and I was 2 years younger than all the boys. So that made me become friends with the girls because I was so much smaller. Imagine being an 11-year-old boy and having 13-year-old classmates. You're a child and they're men.
It's a big difference.
It's a huge difference. It's a huge difference. So I was never strong enough to play the sports. I was never, and that's kind of influenced me to the point where I'm like, for the past decades, I've been like the strong guy, the athlete, like a lot of these things just become like, because you make that choice to become that person. So bottom line is, I was so much smaller than everybody else. And I remember being a child, because I don't think I'd even gone through puberty. And I had heard a song called A New Level by Pantera, which if people are looking for it, they're going to hate the song, most of them. And I apologize for that. But I do have a history of listening to metal. And I just took those words from that song very literally. And I literally, after listening to that song a few times, was a different person. And to me, it's a very clear thing. It was another day where I hadn't made the basketball team, and I was the worst athlete, and I was the smallest guy, and I was just the weakest and pathetic. Like, I just felt pathetic, and I found my superpower, and it was through a song, but it can be anything. It's self-efficacy is what we were talking about. It's that thing that you decide that is going to change things for you. And from that day, anytime I feel what other people would feel as fear, I would walk forward instead of walking backwards. And I think the most important choice that people can make is just look yourself in the mirror and decide who you want to be. That is not a fake thing. That is not a filter. That is not bullshit. That's a real, tangible thing. You know who you are. Find what that animal is. And if you don't like that animal, change it, or make it the best version of that animal, or make yourself believe what animal you are. I am very connected to the jungle, and I speak in terms of animals all the time, and I speak about things in a very physical way, which makes it very strange that I work, for example, with neuroscience and neurofeedback, and I'm having meetings with NASA, because I would be like the opposite person. But I think if anything, that proves that if you are truthful, and if you are honest, and if you are open and you are transparent, you fit on any table. You fit at any table, in any room, with anybody. And that makes you be less impressed by people. And that's a powerful thing. The day that you realize that you're the one that's impressive and not the people around you, that's pretty fucking great.
I can imagine that. And I mean, so you found your animal, you found your superpower. You're a little bit delusional, you really believe in yourself, you just go out there and own it.
Right.
Has it put it in your, like, some strange situation as well? Like, I mean, it couldn't only be positive. And when you hear about the story, you think that that has made you going through only good shit, right?
Brother, when I was in Libya, I had some issues. So I was there during the war. I got there in late 2010. I was there for almost 4 years, right? I ended up having some issues. Some people that were a little radical didn't like the way I looked at things. I ended up becoming like one of the voices of women's rights in Libya, very randomly, just out of sheer stupidity and fearlessness, right? So when I was in Libya, there was all this talk, for example, and I'm Libyan, but I had gone to Libya I'm a Libyan from Costa Rica, and I had this project with my Swedish partner, oddly enough, and there's a deep connection to Sweden for me, and I've always loved it and felt a little bit Swedish, even though I'm so not Swedish. And bottom line is, I went to Libya to do a commercial transaction. That was it. I was going to be there for a few weeks. I was going to get some money, go back to Costa Rica. Life is great. But then when I got to Libya, things changed. The war happened. I'm an idiot. It's a great, terrible combination of ingredients. And I stayed there. And after Gaddafi fell, the country started radicalizing very quickly. So they started like saying things like, okay, now we're going to separate boys and girls from school. And just things that to me just sounded crazy. Growing up in Costa Rica, which is a country where, there's a very solid equal opportunity culture that we have. There's a very strong single mother culture, etc. I grew up very attached to my mother and my sister, for example. And for me, it was just like crazy to think that all of a sudden, the country is free. Mm-hmm. They go through this war, tons of people are dying. All of a sudden the country's free. So now everybody is going to be, adhering to these new rules that only help half the population. So we're going to separate the boys and the girls, and everybody has these rules that they have to follow, and women can't go to the gyms, and women can't go out. And there's and remember, this is a country where not only is it radical, but everybody has weapons. Everybody has every weapon, every crazy thing you see in a movie, everybody has in their car, right? Everybody has it on them. You go into a supermarket, you're ready to go into a shootout at any point, right? It's pretty crazy. It's not the Wild West. It's like the futuristic, crazy Star Wars, Wild West. So what I did is I started this Facebook page called the Tripoli Fitness Community because I'm an idiot. That was the only reason why I started it. And it was because I would get all these women asking me like, hey, Moha, like, oh, you're in good shape, you train, all this stuff. I'm going to get married and I need to lose 30 kilos to fit into my wedding dress. And they'll buy a wedding dress that's 3 sizes too small. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to eat oranges for the next 3 months. And then I'd be like, yeah, maybe eating oranges for the next 3 months is not the best thing. So I started this Facebook page to give like some advice on just basic like nutrition and training stuff. But it was kind of like a scam. The reason why I really did it was to show that men and women should be able to exercise together and do shit together without really picking a fight with the radicals, with the really far out people that think that women should be, locked at home. And it snowballed. So I literally started pushing it further and further. And I'd like do these events and I would have men and women come and join these events together, and it's like, yeah, well, yeah, men and women that don't know each other come and train of all ages and stuff, and people were like writing things like, oh, you know, you're putting women in danger and all this stuff. So I flew my mom in from Costa Rica one time, and she came, she did one of the events. She ran a 5K. She probably didn't break any records, but I'm very proud of her that she did it.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, and even then, the whole time while I'm doing it, I'm hearing that I'm doing it for this reason or that reason, or that there's an agenda or something, when I knew for sure that the only agenda is that this is who I am, and I'm this idiot, and I don't give a shit. And it's the right thing, and I'm gonna do it because I think it's the right thing. So yeah, you do hear it. Like here in Sweden, I'll hear the same thing, you know. I don't hear it as often. And people that are around me usually tend to adopt a lot of my qualities, you know, or my flaws. You know, it's the consequence of being a leader in your, you know, in your environment.
Yeah.
So it's like everybody around me starts fasting, and everybody around me seems to get in better shape, and everybody around me starts to get more involved with like the work that I do and like that kind of stuff. And bottom line is, yeah, there are repercussions to being yourself. You just have to decide which ones are worth accepting and which ones you do have to change, right? I've had to change a lot of things about myself that I wasn't proud of, because I understood that they're not the right thing, and that it doesn't affect my identity to change those things that I always believed for decades. And I feel I'm a better person now than I've been ever. So it's, yeah, I'm very at peace with it. But yeah, of course, people will talk shit no matter what you do. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
And I think that's a good perspective as well to have, because, I mean, it's hard to look at someone and see what they succeed with, but we really want to deep dive into what's there underneath.
Right.
What happened to get there?
Right.
What failures and things have you met along the way? And it's just good to hear that. I mean, even if you think you always gonna succeed, even if you do everything right in your way, you're still gonna meet frauds. And you look at them, you see what could have changed, what could have not, and you move forward.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about succeed, like to me, that's such a relative thing, right? Because I've failed so much at so many things. Like I could write books on all my failures, like in my stupidity and like all the mistakes I've made and stuff. But another superpower that I don't maybe give enough credit to, even though I give it a lot of credit, I don't give it enough credit, was literally just having amazing people around me that will just help you and be there for you every time you fuck up. And I'm terribly flawed at a lot of things. Like I always say, like there's a few things I'm amazing at. Most things I'm terrible at. You understand? But it's when you get to that point where you start kind of like taking the opportunities and not wasting them, that's great. The problem is that some people just don't get more opportunities. I was very fortunate in that I have amazing people that kept giving me opportunities, and I've gotten 50th chances. You know, people talk about like, oh, second chances. Like I've gotten 50th chances. Like I'm very, and you know, one thing that makes me laugh is every time you see somebody being like, luck doesn't exist. Like, oh, like, yeah, I'm like, go fuck yourself. Like, luck doesn't exist. Like, come on, man. A lot of it is luck, plus hard work. But we have this saying, so we have this really, really good goalie called Keylor Navas from Costa Rica, who is Paris Saint-Germain. He was with Real Madrid, all this stuff. And, you know, so he's an amazing goalie. But we have a saying in Costa Rica that says, if you're a goalie, it's better to be lucky than good. So it's like luck is a very, maybe it's a cultural thing to us, but like, I mean, we acknowledge that there's things that out there that, you know, they give you a hand or they kind of kick you in the teeth, you know, but it doesn't mean you can't make it without them. They sure help. And I've had a lot of good luck, man. And I, you know, knock on wood, man, keep it coming.
Yeah, and probably the harder you work, the more luck you get as well. So
there is an equation there, yes. I don't know what percentage is what, but there is an equation.
Yeah, for sure. You can't tell there is luck because we all know that some parts wouldn't have gone through without some luck. And
you can be very lucky and just never take action.
Yeah. Up to you.
Man.
It's also cool because it wraps around where you talked about yourself being a jaguar, a cat with 9 lives or 7 lives. And what you said, you have got 58 chances. I mean, it's the same thing. Like you look at yourself as a jaguar, you get there, you feel like you're gonna do everything in your way to succeed or get forward.
Right.
and you make it.
Right.
So it has a lot to do, I think, with how you look yourself and how you perceive yourself.
I agree, brother. I agree. And like at this point in my life in 2021, to me, it's so cool that I get to be myself with all my limitations and all the things that I'm terrible at, and to be in Sweden and to have these incredible people around me. And I feel an obligation to make sure that I add to their lives like they add to me. And that's why I'm so excited. Like when we talk about that I'm here and I'm part of this ecosystem, and my first job in Sweden was Fishbrain, and now I'm involved with like all sorts of companies, like everything from Astralis to Natural Cycles to War on Cancer, which is a project that I love, to Treon, a bunch, all these amazing companies with great people, and Mendy, of course. And for me, it's just about how is it that I make sure that these incredible women and men have the happiest possible lives? How can I add a little bit to that? But that's just because I feel that I owe so many people so much, because I'm just so genuinely grateful that I've made it this far. I don't know if I'm the oldest person that you've had on, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised about that. It's just, to me, it's like, it's almost mind-boggling that I've made it here. So that explains why, when you message me and you're like, hey, can I come over? I'm like, yeah, just come over. And that's kind of like my thing. Like I have people write me randomly. I'm like, yeah, come over to my place and let's have a fika, And I'm fasting, so fika to me is coffee, but if you're lucky, you can get a boule or something.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love the way you look at life and the gratefulness you show around yourself. Because I'm super grateful to be here.
I'm grateful to have you here, brother.
In your home and everything. And I mean, it gives energy back as well, I can guess, by inviting people and they've shown their greatness for you.
Dude, but you don't do it expecting people to give you something back, right? You just do it because that's who you are.
Yeah.
What's your animal?
I've thought about this since we last met, right?
Yeah.
I can't really define. I think I'm an eagle.
You're an eagle.
Yeah.
Well, an eagle is going to do eagle things regardless of where it's at.
Yeah.
So to me, it's just like, I'm just being myself. Like, this is the life I want to have. This is who I am. So if somebody comes and doesn't reciprocate, it really doesn't mean a shit to me, because I was true to myself, right?
Yeah.
So you just worry about doing the eagle things, you're going to be fine, man. That's a good animal. I can see that.
Cool.
I can see that.
So if you're trying to wrap back to the story, you moved to Sweden,
right.
You came here, you said that you started to work with some big companies. Tell me a little
not
bit more.
big, but yeah.
Not big, but I mean,
Cool, yeah.
Interesting and cool
Yeah.
companies.
Yeah. Well, I knew nothing about anything. I remember literally just like asking questions. Like I didn't know what app meant. Like I didn't know anything. I remember like skimming through books like growth hacks and stuff, just trying to figure out where I could fit in, because there's this incredible new world where, my brain was always kind of like taught that, well, yeah, you work and you get, if you work 10 hours, you get paid for 10 hours. Then there's this world where that's not how it works, because you can get part of a company. And if you push the car with everybody else and that car gets really, really far, that company gets really, really far, all of a sudden you own a percentage, you've got some options, you got some warrants, you got some whatever, you got some shares. All of a sudden, that can be a lot more than the salaries that you got. To me, that's wow. So I'm working and I'm getting salary and I'm living and I'm having great dinners every day, because dinner is breakfast, as you know, because I only eat at night. But, I'm having these great dinners every day and I'm having this fantastic life. And I own a chunk of that company, which I can sell, which turns into real money. Like, to me, it was just like, wow, welcome to the future. It's like literally, I just stepped out of, 2000 BC. I have this, this big log in my hand and I'm killing animals, and all of a sudden I'm the Jetsons and I'm in a rocket ship, right? So when I understood that, I did it with a company called Fishbrain. I got, a bit of money. To me, this is like, wow, this is great. And then it was just a multiple of, well, how many companies can I help? And, and that's kind of like what turned into my life the next few years, and just getting a bit of equity here and a bit of equity there. And I own a little bit of that and a little bit of that. And now I'm involved in 30 plus projects. And it's, they seem to love having me on board. Like a lot of times I don't, I'm just grateful to be there and to be able to help. Right. And, even though you could argue I have a 200% commitment to Mendy, which is the company that I'm the CEO of, right? Because I do work 70, 80-hour weeks. So when you talk about luck, yeah, it's not about luck only, right? I mean, the amount of work that I put in, I don't know anybody that works more than I do. I'm very proud of that because I don't feel that I'm the best at anything, but I'm tougher than just about anybody. Like I'm
working hard, right?
I'm stubborn. Like I will make sure that I get things done, right? You know, I remember spending night times, like literally just full nights, talking to neuroscientists, reading about things like open science, talking to people from NASA about shit that I know nothing about. And then again, you get a big pass when you don't come in with an arrogance and you're pretending to know things. My approach to everything is if I'm sitting next to somebody that's great at something, I'll be like, yeah, you're great, I acknowledge it, and I know nothing about this. Now let's get started. The problem with people is that people try to put up this front. It's this fake thing, so it just becomes this awkward interaction. Whereas with me, they're willing to help me. Like people want to help me because I'm very, very open with what I have and what I don't have. Like it's a no bullshit policy. It's absolute transparency. So even when I would be talking to neuroscientists, I remember one of the first times I spoke to neuroscientists, I had to put my phone number on Kickstarter, which is a very stupid thing to do. And I've done it a dozen times because I don't learn my lesson. And, but to me, it's because, you know, full transparency, right?
Yeah.
And I remember a neuroscientist calling me and saying, I called you because I did my research and this is your only phone number. And I wanted to know if you're for real or if you're fucking out of your mind. And I was like, probably a combination of both, but you know, it's good that we're here and we're talking. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's, that's the approach. Like, just don't be afraid and just go in there and you'll figure it out. So when I joined Fishbrain, I really didn't know much. I just asked questions and I used the one thing I do have, which is, you know, which is also a superpower that a lot of people lack, which is common sense. I've used this analogy before, but you know, there's a lot of people selling selfie sticks and purses on the street that have common sense. I just happen to not be on the street. I happen to be in Stockholm. Like in the time when there's this, like, you know, we were part of Sub 46 when I joined Fishbrain and stuff. And I just had access to all these amazing people. And it's, a lot of it is the environment and a small part of it is me, you know? But yeah, that turned into, you know, I did a few good things for Fishbrain. And after Fishbrain, that turned into other projects. And it was just common sense. It was, with Fishbrain, it was, look, who fishes? It's basically, you know, middle-aged men. You know, if you can get those middle-aged men who are not tech savvy, they're probably Christians, they're probably have a gun, you know, they probably, you know, you know, they're a little bit like the Trump supporter. This is 2014. There's no such thing as Trump back then, right? But, you know, Fishbrain and, you know, the founders are great. Jens and Marcus and CEO Johan, and just a great team back then. Very fond of, still very, very close to a lot of the guys from that original team. There was like 6 of us or 7 of us. You know, it was basically figuring out, which to me was common sense, that if you get that guy who drinks Bud Light, who has a rifle, who is in the United States, obviously, who's in Florida, who is not tech savvy, who has a bit of a belly, you know, that, if you get him specifically, because it's male, it was like 90-some% of the anglers were actually men, then you can get that viral spillover effect. And that's how Fishbrain scaled in Florida. And that was a lot of fun. I used to spend a lot of time in Tampa Bay at, you know, Hogan's Beach, and it was just this horrible part of the world. I remember it was funny because I used to ask people, I love it, by the way. I say that in a very, very fond way. There's nothing horrible about it. I enjoyed every minute. But it's surreal. And I remember I used to talk to people like, oh, do you guys know Spotify? And nobody knew Spotify, which to me was hilarious, right? Because 2 years later, everybody knew Spotify. Yeah. But like, we're talking late 2014 in the US, nobody knew it, you know? So it's not, when I look at the US, a place like Florida, for example, let's leave aside like California and New York, but like literally, they're closer to like Costa Rica than to Sweden. Like, to me, Sweden is like 40 years in the future. Like, this is like the first world. Like, it's just so advanced. And I just happen to be this caveman that's lucky that you guys are so ahead that it kind of makes my flaws hidden.
Yeah.
And I can maneuver and, you know, be part of these companies, which...
It's such a cool story. And I mean, it's incredible how you... I actually have 2 questions around this story. So the first one would be, I mean, I also like to put myself in positions where I don't know a shit. Like, this is the first interview I do in English.
That's awesome.
Yes, because I'm sitting here, because I got an opportunity and I wanted to try it out. So I can't really define what gets me there and how I think about it. Could you try to like look back at your story, because you have more experience in it? Like, how do you think when you get in those positions? Like, how do you act? You said it narrowly, like you try to have common sense, listen, ask questions.
Right.
But what would you say to someone that puts in, like, they accept that they're going to be put in those positions?
Right.
What would you say to those people?
I would say just be confident and transparent, because then there's nothing to be afraid of. Your voice is never shaky if you're not having to think too much. And if you're confident, you don't really have to think too much, because that's the ego talking, right? Like, you don't have to rehearse your lines, right? It doesn't matter if you're walking into a job interview, if you're walking into a date, if you're walking into anything. And I've become these are things that I've taught myself. It goes back to the neuroscience and the self-efficacy and the stuff. And the reason why I always have a little hand on me that I had, you know, all my time in Libya and that I lost, and then my keychain, and then I bought this in Madrid last week. But that's what it would be. Just go in knowing that when I walk into a meeting, when I walk into anything, I walk in thinking, no matter what happens, I'm going to leave this situation completely fine. And it's not because I have money or I don't have money or because I have this or I have that. It's because I am this animal. So bottom line is, when I was broke, and I've been broke many times, when I've had a lot, when I've had nothing, when I've had people around me, when I've had no one around me, I would always go in with the same attitude. It's just like, well, this is going to happen, and no matter what happens, I'm going to be completely fine. Because when I leave that room, it's still Moha. You know?
Still the Jaguar, right?
It's still the Jaguar. And you know, it doesn't matter. Jaguars don't like the snow so much, but it's probably going to make it in the snow. Like, you understand? So it's one of those things where if you come in with that, I think that attitude is a lot more important than the words that you say, or the strategy that you have, or the approach. Or there might be smarter people that would tell you, like, oh, just slow down and listen to what they say. But I have none of that. All I have is that I'm going to go in being like, hey, Moha's here. I remember I was never that great at, like, for example, like I would play things that I wasn't that great at, like literally like sports that I kind of sucked at. But I would come in and I truly believed that whatever team I was on was going to win. And I literally felt that it was because I was on that team. Am I an idiot? Of course. Like, that's probably not if we win, if we lose, it's probably because I'm on that team, right? But that belief is such a powerful thing, man. Because you can be the best player and have doubts. And confidence beats everything. I talk to a lot of people, like a lot of, you know, we have, like, for example, interns that have joined us, and you know, you guys just produce amazing people here in Sweden. Like, the educational system is just, it's on point, especially for the industry that I'm in, right? People always complain and people talk shit, and it really annoys me when people talk shit about Sweden, to be honest. And there's always people complaining, like, nothing works here, and you should leave Sweden because everything works here. But bottom line is, we have these interns. For example, this guy Alex from my team at Mendy, who came in, and he gives me a lot of credit for a lot of the things. And this guy, if you see him 8 months ago when he joined Mendy, he has sent a message on Instagram saying that, oh, I'm a backer, I bought a Mendy, I'd love to meet you and stuff. And then he came in, yeah, I'm backer number 5,000, I'm a KTH student. And this guy comes in. If you see that person now, I think the only thing I have given that person, And there's some incredible people. His boss is a guy named David Tenser from my team, who's unbelievable. And Rickard, who's one of the founders, Rickard Eckloff, who is also unbelievable. They're both way smarter and better at just about everything than I am when it comes to our work. But the one thing that he got from me was basically that he understood that, yes, you're the student from KTH, blah, blah, blah. How do you differentiate yourself? You basically need to be exactly the most naked, strongest, purest form of Alex, this Romanian kid that's a KTH student. Find your superpowers and heighten them. Instead of trying, if you've got these energy bars that go from 0 to 10, like if you're playing FIFA, defense 80, offense 40, blah, blah, blah. Most people want to be well balanced. Everybody wants to be a 60 at everything. I would argue that I would rather be 100 in 4 of them. And maybe I don't need to play defense at all. Give me a 0 on defense and give me 100 on offense, or vice versa. Once you understand that, and you understand that the jaguar doesn't need to fly and the eagle doesn't need to swim, maybe eagles swim, I don't know. I guess they do swim, right?
A little bit at least.
A little bit, yeah. That's a very powerful thing. If you see this guy now, he's unbelievable. I saw him yesterday. By the way, my process is very hands-on. I'm a very hands-on, dirty, grimy, let's fucking do it kind of guy. And I just grabbed him the first day because he asked me if he could be my intern. And I was like, let's do it. So he joins the company. And I was like, well, part of your job from now on is you're going to go train with me every day. So I would go to the gym and I would take him with me, and he's never trained and stuff. This guy's a beast now. I can't keep up with him anymore. He's 25. He's got those, those Romanian genetics, and he's to me, that is such an amazing thing. Like, that is so powerful to just see how any person can tap into what they have. And you'd have to call him and ask him what his animal is, but it's a fucking great one. And he's just a great human being. And like what I told you when you came in here, it's like, if you can live a life where you're enjoying everything, you've seen I have a candy room.
Yeah.
And, if you can have a life where you always eat what you want to eat, and you always do what you enjoy, and you're only around people that you care about and that you love and that you trust and that you respect, and you're doing good, you're hurting nobody, you're fucking no one over, man, that's the dream. Spread that. Now he's got people under his wing and so on and so forth. And that's impact. Everything is impact. I only want to be around things that impact, because there's been superheroes around me. Like, I have friends of mine that are such superheroes. A lot of them are the founders of these companies that I admire and I look up to. And to me, it's incredible that they admire what I have. So it just makes this beautiful, we want to give each other things. Like, you're fighting to pay the bill kind of thing, but in a karmic way. It has nothing to do with money, right? I'll give you, so this mug that I'm drinking with, says Team Aaron. So Aaron Anderson, who's a co-investor, he's a founding co-investor of mine with Mendy, with War on Cancer. He's a fucking superhero. Like, you understand, this is there's these, I have access to these people that are the ultimate version of what it is to be superhuman. Like a guy like Aaron Anderson, for example, like, who do I fucking compare him to? He's one of the best people I know. He's a fucking superhero. As a child, he got, spinal cancer, all these injuries, all this stuff. His mindset, his brain, one of the first things he told me is, as a child, they told me I would never walk again, so I decided to learn how to fly. And he's going to take me skydiving and all this stuff. This guy, like, when I sit with him, just like people are inspired to talk with me, the secret is that I'm inspired by people that I look up to. And that's, for example, Aaron is one of them, and having that in your circle makes you so powerful. I always talk about my team. I always talk about the people around me, but that can be the investors. That can be I met an investor 2 days ago whose story just blew my mind. Gunilla von Platen. I don't know if you know who she is, but she's incredible. And I'm like, you're a fucking superwoman. You're a superhero. I have these people around me. Elizabeth, Maria, Sophia, Anna. Like, I have these people that I just love. I look up to so much. And most of those influences are women. And a lot of it might come from growing up with my mom and my sister. But there's no better place to find these incredible people than Sweden. So I'm just lucky I'm allowed to be here.
Yeah, it's super cool, and I practice it every day. That's why I'm sitting here, right?
Yeah.
That's why I'm doing this thing as well.
Yeah, just don't overthink it.
No.
People think too much. Like, I'm gonna give you the probably the worst advice that you can ever get, but my advice is just don't think. Just do. Take action. Take action and don't be an asshole.
Stop wishing, start doing.
Stop wishing, start doing. You should definitely interview Aaron. He's a lot cooler than I am. He's fucking amazing.
I mean, you're cool in different ways, right? You said that you don't want to be the 60% person. You want to be at 100%.
I have so many superheroes around me. Some of them, some of the biggest founders in history. Some of a lot of amazing people that people look up to are great friends of mine. I'm in a life where my favorite artists, my favorite rock stars, are friends of mine. The best founders are our friends. But it's this respect thing. There's no ass kissing. There's no adulation. It's like, you make me better, I make you better. You give me and I give you. And it's a very, very open, transparent, no behind the scenes agenda bullshit thing where honestly, I've had to sit down and kind of think, what figures would when people ask me who do you look up to? When I have these people in my life, it's really hard to answer that. When you have these incredible people in your life, which everybody knows who these people are around me, it's like, who do I look up to? Is it Optimus Prime? Who is it? Who on this planet is more impressive or inspirational or amazing than the people that happen to love me? And if that doesn't give me humility, and if that doesn't almost make me embarrassed and make me fight day and night to try to live up to them, fuck, man. I'm very fortunate, brother. I'm very fortunate. And if I can give you 0.1% of what they give me, it's a great day for me. It's a great Friday. I don't know when this is going to air. What is this?
It's a happy Friday, right?
It's a happy Friday.
We're going to launch it on a Sunday, I think.
Sunday, awesome.
But happy Sunday anyway.
Happy Sunday.
And I love it. I love it. And I mean, surround yourself with the people you want to be like. Get the insights. Be open, grateful. Get to know yourself. Find your superpower. Move forward. So, I mean, when you collect all this and you sold your equity in Fishbrain, you started to collect more equity, you started to own more, you finally come to Mendy, where we are right now, or it's one of your biggest projects, which you work the most on.
Well, I mean, so for example, Mendy, for me, Mendy was, again, I slipped on a banana peel and I landed on one of the founders, Sammy. So the Mendy founders are these two engineers, very, very different, fantastic, unbelievable engineers. One of them is all about, how to bring things to the world. He's about growth, it's about scale, it's about true impact. The other one's this hardware and product genius that's looking at, KTH guy, blah, blah, blah. And these guys built this incredible product. I had nothing to do with it. I get too much credit for doing way too little. What happened was that when I was with Fishbrain in late 2014, at an after work, I had this guy come up to me and add me on Facebook. I don't hear about this guy in 5+ years, forget about it. He starts messaging me 5.5 years later. Hey man, I met you when you were with Fishbrain. And I'm like, do you remember me? I'm like, no, I don't remember you. That was Mendy's founder, Sammy, who's a guy from Karlstad. And what happened was, after he messaged me a few times, I went to see the guys from War on Cancer, which is a project I'm very passionate about that's trying to really help people as well. And I think as I've gotten older and I've gotten a little bit, I've had a little bit more money, I'm more selective with what I get involved in. And I want to get involved with things that really help people, because when you're struggling to pay for your bills, all you care about is paying your bills. But you get to that stage afterwards where it's like, is it going to be about acquiring money, or is it going to be about doing something good and giving back? And I had already gotten to that point. And when I meet Sammy, he comes up. I went to see War on Cancer at WeWork, and Sammy comes up to me, and I write him, you've got like 15 minutes or whatever, and he comes with a Mendy, and he goes, well, Mendy is this company that me and my founder, Rickard, built, and it brings neurofeedback to everybody. So it's, for home use, neurofeedback, and it's this technology called FNIRS, blah, blah, blah. I didn't understand anything. Functional near-infrared spectroscopy. You're not supposed to know about that because nobody should know about that, right? And, but bottom line, what he says to me is, he's like, yeah, if you use this helps you with your ADHD, your PTSD, your anxiety, insomnia, depression, blah, 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 blah. And I remember saying to him, I grabbed it, I did a session, I used it. It's a mind-blowing moment the first time that you play a video game with your brain. It's like, wow. And I asked him, who's financed this? And he's like, yeah, Vinnova and Almi Invest and EU Horizons. I was like, wow, the due diligence is done. And I said to him, if 90% of what you've said to me is bullshit, I'm investing. And I invested right there on the spot, which I don't recommend to investors to do that. I don't know if I should be the guide to anybody to make investment decisions or any of these things, although I like to think I have good instincts. So I invested after doing a quick session. I go home within the next 3 weeks. So I've got a lot of those things. I got the PTSD from war, and I've got the ADHD, and I've always had anxiety. I start using it. In 3 weeks, everybody's telling me, you're so different. You're so positive. I had an ex-girlfriend I had a breakup with. She's like, you're so happy. Who is this person? You're amazing. And I have friends of mine that are like, man, like what has happened? And I'm like, I just feel really good. Like I'm really happy. Like I just feel like, and all of a sudden I feel that I'm like more focused, and I'm like, so I'm getting obsessed with this stuff. A couple of weeks later, I realized I read a book in bed, like for the first time in my life. And I'm like, shit, like this is crazy. And I'm this evangelist. Like you would ask me what time it is, and I'd be like, no, you don't want to know the time. You want to know about Mendy. Like, let me tell you about neurofeedback and all this. And when they asked me to become the CEO, the founders, because I would spend time and they would be at my place and they'd be having dinners and stuff. I became so passionate about it. I was just an investor, right? But then I got so involved that one day I told them, you guys should get Sriram Krishnan from Twitter as the CEO of Mendy. And they said, yeah, but we want you to be the CEO. And I laughed and I said no. And they said to me, well, I said, you probably need somebody that knows this, or a scientist or something. And they said, yeah, but you believe in us. And I made a couple of phone calls. One of them was to, the biggest founder in Sweden, who's a great friend of mine. And the other one was to the chairman of my board, who's also a great friend of mine. And they're literally people that I trust with my life. And they said to me, yeah, take the job, because you don't need to know anything to be a good CEO. You just need to listen. Don't be stubborn. Don't be a narcissist. Don't think that you're right. So just be transparent with what you don't know. You need to care about people, care about your team, care about the users, care about the investors. And the third one is communicate. You can do that. Any idiot can do that. Any idiot can be a good CEO. I don't know if I'm a good CEO or a terrible CEO, but that was their advice. And I've been the CEO ever since. And it's unbelievable. It changes people's lives. So it's the energy and the passion and the 70, 80 hours a week of working, and me on the phone talking to people and talking to parents who are crying because their 15-year-old daughters understand math for the first time in their lives. And a 60-year-old man in Scotland that's crying because he's gotten a good night of sleep for the first time in his life. And people telling me, Moha, I don't know why, but I feel happier than I've ever felt. It's pretty important work what we're doing, man. And it's again, it's incredible. And you're one of the first people to get a Mendy, so I gave you a Mendy, which we don't give them away, and that's because you and I had that connection in that first chat, and it was very intimate, and it was very, we got very attached very quickly, and I wanted you to have one, and you're gonna see it's. We truly believe that we can change millions of lives, that we can change the world, and when you take somebody that's delusional and confident and a believer, and you get amazing smart people like Faye and Lotta and Rickard and David and Simon Person, my CPO, who's unbelievable. You get these incredible people, and you get Lauren Silbert from Princeton Neuroscience, and you get these people from NASA and all that. That's a powerful combination.
It is.
And you've got thousands of people, and we're being transparent, and it's a no bullshit approach, and we don't want to prey on the desperation of people. Like, you just create this storm where my life mission at this point has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with things. It has everything to do with being able to give what Rickard and Sammy gave me. And that's why I'm so grateful to them for building this thing. And that's Mendy. And I'd love to hear your feedback in a few weeks.
So, I mean, yeah, Mendy's super freaking cool. I mean, all this, Mendy, moving to Sweden, like ending up here, Fishbrain, everything. Like, why? How had you come this far? And I mean, how had you ended up in these situations? It's incredible. And what would happen if you didn't? Like,
so in Costa Rica, our national saying is pura vida, which means pure life. But it's kind of like a way of life where it's just kind of like go with the flow and everything's going to be good. I honestly have that. And I ended up in Sweden, and tech was what was happening. And that's why I ended up doing this. It was more the environment than anything else. If I would have ended up in, I don't know, in India, I might have ended up doing something else. In a different life, I'd be bartending somewhere, or I'd be, cooking somewhere, or I'd be, whatever, playing a sport, fighting, whatever. And I'd be just as happy. I really think I would be just as happy. Sweden just happens to be this unbelievable place to be in. And I just took advantage of things. Mendy's a different thing because my first projects were about money. Then it became money and doing good. And then it got to the point where I really didn't feel like I wanted to work. Like, I wasn't very excited. I felt like I was putting in, like, there was nothing where I really was putting a lot of energy into. And I don't feel that I've ever put in much energy into any of the projects that I've been involved in here. And I've done well, or they've thought I've done well. It's like, imagine being a football player that's so good that you don't have to try. If you tried, it would be amazing, right? But I just really didn't feel that I could do that. When Mendy happened, it became a very selfish, personal thing. Because my life was changed. That was eye-opening, and it was like, I want to commit to this because imagine if I would have had this 20 years ago. Like, I remember when I joined, for example, Wear Labs back in the day, years ago, it seems like a lifetime ago. Simon Rienes, who was the chairman of the board at the time, he said, imagine if Wear Labs would have existed 25 years ago. My life would have been so much better. And that stuck with me. That was like something that and then I had my own moment where I took my own personal experience and I attached it to that. And it was like, you know what? I don't want the people that need this to have to wait 20 years because science is so slow. So I'm going to do something crazy. I'm going to do something that I know nothing about and that I suck at, just because I feel that I'm stronger and I'm stronger willed than anybody else. And I'm going to do this mission justice. And how I ended up in Sweden, that's one story. How I ended up in tech, because I ended up in Sweden. How I ended up at Mendy, because I believed in it, and because the Fishbrains of the world put me in a position where I can do it, where I can get noticed by Sammy, who is the genius behind the whole thing. He's the one, he's the puppet master. He had his eye on me, and he's like, come in and do this for us, because he saw what I see in myself, which is that delusion and that confidence and that strength and my belief. And that's pretty much what it is. If you're confident and you believe, it really doesn't matter where you are.
Go with the flow.
I could be in the back of a kitchen in Thailand. I'd be super happy, but you wouldn't be interviewing me.
No, but I mean, you'd have been happy anyways, and you would have done a super good job, because that's your view on life.
1,000%.
So that's
Pura vida.
That's super cool.
Yeah, pura vida. That's what it's all about. The Costa Rican way of life.
Pura vida.
Exactly.
I love it.
Good to see you, brother.
Good to see you, brother.
Good to have you here.
Happy Friday.
Or Sunday.
Or Sunday. I love it. So it takes us back to Mendy, just to wrap it up, because I think it's a really interesting product. And when people are viewing this, I have been using it for approximately 3 weeks. It will be some videos up here showing me playing the game as well. Mm-hmm. Can you take me a little bit, not like super deep into the insights of it, or the technical aspects of it, but just a little bit like how does it work?
And you can do a session now. Do your first Mendy session now.
Yeah.
So bottom line is, what Mendy does is it uses a technology called FNIRS, functional near infrared spectroscopy, to emit light that goes through your skull and into the hyperperfused areas of your brain. Bottom line is it rewards you. We make games for your phone. We make mobile games in which you are rewarded for increasing oxygenated blood flow to the prefrontal cortex. When you increase the oxygenated blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, it makes your brain healthier. Now that is part of a brain health system, which you will understand once you start playing it. So bottom line is, whether you're a 9-year-old or you're a 20-some-year-old or you're a 90-year-old, your brain needs exercise. It's intended for people that are healthy. When you go to the gym, people look like you and me. People don't look like a contestant on The Biggest Loser. That means that Mendy's not intended for the critically ill, but it will help people. So as time evolves and as we have all the data, obviously we can get to the point where we're treating conditions. But as of right now, what we're doing is we are helping people be able to cope with the stress of modern society. Imagine how difficult it is, for example, to be a 16-year-old girl now, or a 16-year-old boy.
Yeah.
You know, you've got Instagram, you've got notifications, you've got likes, you've got this, you've got that. Everybody has the best boyfriend, everybody has a six-pack, everybody is flying private, the brain is not built for that.
Dopamine overload.
The brain is a mess.
Yeah.
These people, that's why you get all these panic attacks and the anxiety and all these things, because the brain does not know how to regulate these things. It's too much. So the brain has been, let's just put it this way, we've got this brain that is very similar to back in the day when we used to, you know, just gather vegetables and hunt and eat, and life was a lot simpler. But now you've got all this exponential growth in technology, and we're not giving people the ability to be able to keep up with it. And that's what Mendy does. So obviously it's gonna help you with all sorts of different things by giving you a healthier brain. So basically what you're gonna do is you're gonna play a game where you're gonna learn to focus, and it's gonna improve your brain dramatically. So you're gonna control the game with your brain. Yeah, and I'd love for you to do a session. Go ahead and download the Mendy app.
Already have it, brother.
You already have it?
Yeah.
All right, then just get started. Just turn it on and let's go.
Let's do it. Peter.
Cool.
You're not camera shy? Because we're gonna see you playing now.
Yeah, let's do it, let's do it. This one?
Yeah, put it on.
If I remember correctly, you did this, right? Yeah. Connected. And no hair
Backwards.
in between, right?
You got it backwards.
Okay.
You got it backwards. You got the logo upside down.
Upside down, right?
Make sure it's nice and tight. Mm-hmm.
It is. Looking forward to see improvements with this, but it's fun because I think I overthinked too much in the end,
Yeah.
right? I tried to.
You could have been getting tired. You could have been. Let's see. So.
Yeah, I think I got really trying to.
There you've got your results right there. So you've increased the oxygenated blood flow to your prefrontal cortex by 56%. That's huge. Imagine if you keep doing that. It's just going to change your life. Like imagine that you have, like you're going to have the ability to cope with the shit that you have going on in your life. Start playing around with it, man.
For sure.
Start playing around with it, and
yeah, I'm looking forward to see the improvement as well.
What was that, a 5-minute session?
No, it was a 3-minute session.
3-minute?
Yeah. But I mean, it's really interesting, and like, because I've seen in the group as well, Mendy Early Access, like people trying to figure out the way to get the highest flow, but like what's your view?
Well, I'll tell you, so that device, there's a, if you remove it, so there's a heart rate variability monitor that's not activated right now, which is the 4th sensor. So that one's going to eliminate breathing because people try to cheat it so they can get better results. So it's like if you do push-ups or if you do, bottom line is what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to just stay relaxed and not move. But it's gonna, we have a ton of things that we release little by little because the device is built for habit formation, right? Look, if I give you some weights or I give you a treadmill, the treadmill doesn't do shit. It's you that does it. If you take the fucking treadmill and you put it under your bed, it's not gonna help anybody. So you understand? So it's one of those things where the whole premise right now is that we need to make sure that people use it. And that's how we know that after 10 sessions, 70% of people have improvements. That's insane.
Yeah, and you feel more energized right after as well.
That's fucking insane, dude. You're gonna get a great night of sleep, man. So I've started doing it at night. I don't do it during the day. And that's because it, when I do it, it really helps my sleep. Mm-hmm. Like a day that you do it, you won't get a migraine. Like you'll feel great. Like you'll just feel really, really good. And just imagine, it's like it's your brain is in better shape. So just so you know, right now, we can film this if you guys. Are you filming?
Yeah, we're filming.
Oh, I didn't know. I've just been talking.
No, it's just spontaneous.
Yeah. So bottom line is, look at it this way, man. Right now, your brain is healthier than it was 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's
literally.
crazy.
Sorry, now I'm sitting like this and shit. Like I didn't know we were filming, man. But
It's supposed to be.
yeah. But bottom line is, your brain is healthier now than it was. Every time you do a session, your brain is healthier.
It's insane.
It's insane. It's great.
And
and there's going to be different games, and there's going to be all sorts of different stuff, little by little. The problem is that if you give people too much, you can't form a habit. Peter right here, who clearly trains and goes to the gym and all this stuff, but imagine that Peter's never trained, never done anything. And Peter is a raging alcoholic, and he drinks every day, and he sleeps, and he has no motivation. I can't give him a list of 10 things that I need him to do and expect him to stick to it. There's no way. For him to build a habit, I would need to give him things one at a time. You don't go from drinking every day, never exercising, having no job, having no motivation, blah, blah, to, okay, now you need to start working 10 hours a day, and you need to go to the gym every day, and you need to run at 5 in the morning every day, and you need to, there's no way. So the product is built so that you can gradually increase all these demands on your brain. But with every session, your brain is getting healthier. And that's a pretty cool thing.
It's really freaking cool.
Welcome to Mendy, brother.
Thank you, man. And I know there will be tons of people out there watching this that will be interested in this product.
Right.
What's the status right now? How could they get their hands on Mendy?
Just go on our website, mendy.io. And I look forward to raising the bar on brain health, right? There's a lot of people like me and like you that need this.
For sure.
Now it's going to be available to everybody. Just so you know, my dream is that in a few years, in the short term, everybody will have access to Mendy regardless of how much money they have. Even right now, it's a very affordable product.
Definitely.
Right? It's like what, 2,000 SEK, 2,500 SEK, something like that. It's a product that you can use thousands of times, that the whole family can use together, right? And that's the whole point, is that it's meant for everybody to be able to afford it. Like, brain health should not be conditioned to you having a certain income. I always talk about, I care about the single mom with 4 kids that needs this and whose kids need this. It's not about selling more Mendys, it's about helping more people. Like the KPI that we have is lives improved. So this is one, and that's going to be another one, and now let's just spread it to another few 100 million people. But yeah, just go on Mendy.io and get it. And yeah, at some point down the line, I want everybody to get it for free. I want everybody in the third world to fucking have access to better brain health. You know, it's like, I don't know, maybe the money that we make from the first world, we use to subsidize the, you know, I want everybody in Africa, everybody in India, everybody in Asia, you know, whatever. When I say India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, I feel like I need to be politically correct. But you know, the whole world, you know, that's all we have. It's like,
it's super cool. And I mean, just to clarify, like, I'm not sponsored, I'm not paid or anything. I just think it's an amazing product. And that's why I want to feature it in this interview as well.
I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate that. We're fighting the same battle.
Yeah, and I think, like, yeah, I definitely need it more than probably a lot of people out there, because
what do you have? Is it anxiety?
ADHD.
ADHD, yeah.
A little bit of overthinking.
Yeah.
Anxiety sometimes as well. And I mean, I like the way you looked at it as riding a buoy, right?
Yeah.
Either you go on a clear path without any stones in between, but as soon as it gets like stones and riddles in
the analogy is very clear in my head, because in Costa Rica we have huge potholes in all our roads. So it's like, if you're on a scooter and you're riding down those streets, that's a very stressful life. Now imagine that you've got 2 kids in your back and you got your grocery bags. That life sucks. You know, that you know, you're gonna be angry, you're gonna be stressed, you can't sleep, you're depressed. But as long as you put cement in those holes, it's a smooth ride. Life is good. And that's pretty similar to what you do to the brain, to those areas that need more oxygenated blood flow. And you do it with games. It's fun.
For sure.
That wasn't difficult, was it?
No, it wasn't. It was like 3 minutes as well. And it's so accessible, easy to use. And that's why I'm looking forward to start training with this as well. I can see that it's really simple to create a habit with it.
Yeah.
And that's also a cool thing, because the people with this anxiety, ADHD have problems with creating habits, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel it's a really good and interesting product that I really look forward to start using. So
I think you're pretty amazing as you are, to be honest, and I like you and I enjoy you a lot. You with a healthier brain is gonna be fucking scary, man. I'm very excited to see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been such an interesting talk. I mean, I get so much energy out of it, both from the Mendy and also talking to you, Moha.
Appreciate that, brother.
I appreciate it a lot, and I'm so freaking grateful. And just to be sitting here, I'm not asking that many questions. I'm just listening and just taking everything in. And if I wonder something, I'll just ask about it.
I appreciate it.
And having that conversation is such valuable for me, and I hope it's valuable for all of you guys watching this as well. So, yeah, such an amazing, inspiring story. I can't wait to see where you take Mendy and all your other products. I'm gonna keep following you forever, and I promise you that it made a big impact in my life since the first day I met you.
I appreciate that.
So the impact you were talking about, you're really making it happen. So yeah, amazing talk.
And you have a platform where you can do it with thousands and hundreds of thousands of people at once. So kudos, brother. Good job.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Awesome. Thank you for being here. Oh no, what to say?
Thank you for having you is awesome.
Thank you for having you.
You should just check out with thank you for having you.
Thank you for having here. No, but yeah.
Awesome.
Shit, yeah.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, guys. You guys fucking rock.